In our second part of the Navigating the Command Line session, we're going to look at a few things that I think will help you navigate the command line and help it make it easier for you to get around in Unix. We'll look at command history and how that can help you. We'll also look at command line completion. We'll take a look at environment variables and show you how to show those and to set them. And finally, we'll look at aliasing commands and show you how aliasing can help you provide shortcuts for longer command sequences. The first thing we'll talk about is command history. Now we're in a bash shell, although in other shells this is similar to what we're going to do, and we'll take a look at how these things work in bash. And we'll talk about shells a little bit later on in the course. First of all, let's look at history. Now if we run the history command, we see that it will show us the last few commands typed in. We can also look at just the last few, the last 5 for example, if we want, by putting a 5 there. And we can also use our up arrows and so forth to get to that history so that we can go ahead and use that history to our advantage so that we can go ahead and get that command in there without having to retype an extended command sequence. And that's very useful to us. Now, another thing we can look at is command line completion. And command line completion will help us as well because it helps us go ahead and auto-complete certain commands as we type them in. For example, if we type in the command netstat and enter that, that's great, but we could also put in just the net command and hit the tab key. And the tab key will type in that command for us. And we might have to put the appropriate switches in there, whatever switches we like, and that will get us the command. For example, we can also type in just DME and hit the tab key, and that will complete the dmessage command. So you see, if you're not sure exactly how it's structured and you're not sure you got the syntax right, you could hit the tab key and get command completion to work. This will make typing a little bit faster, a little bit more efficient, and it will help you save some time. The next thing we'll look at are environment variables. And environment variables basically store certain information in the variables for the system. Things like the shell variables, the user variables, and so forth. For example, if we type in the word set, we get a look at most of these variables. If we also type in the word environment, we get a lot of the same information. So that's 2 different commands you can use to get access to the system environments. Let's see how we can actually set an environment variable. In the bash shell, what we could say is, let's say a equals, let's say 33. That's going to set the variable a to 33. Now how can we use this? Well, if we want to echo it to the screen, we can echo the a variable, and all variables are prefixed by a $, by the way. That should give us 33. The other thing we can do is use that variable in scripts and so forth. So if we set a particular variable to a value, we can use that later on in scripts. Now, unless you've exported that variable and its value out, normally you can only use that in a particular session or a particular shell. In order to export that out so that it can be used globally across multiple sessions or shells, you would type in the export command. Let's say a is now 35. We've exported that variable out now, and it can be used across multiple shells and sessions. The next thing I'd like to discuss with you is command aliasing. Now, command aliasing gives you the ability to assign shortcuts to long series of commands and their switches. For example, if you frequently type in cat etc password, then you can set an alias to that sequence and just use a shortcut. If you just type in the word alias, you can see what is currently aliased, which right now is nothing. But let's type in alias, and we're going to make that cat etc password, and we're going to assign that to the shortcut P. Now if we type in the command alias, we see our aliased command in there. Now how do we make this work? Well, we simply type P in there, and we get the cat etc password file. Now you can see where if you type in long series and sequences of commands, aliasing would help you out probably a lot. Now we can unalias this by simply typing unalias P, and that will take care of it. So now if we type in alias to get our listing, we can see that it's empty. We've shown you a few shortcuts that you can use in the shell in order to save time, energy, and make yourself more efficient. And keep in mind there are probably dozens of other shortcuts you can use in the shell, and we'll go over some of those as we go through the course, but these are just a few, and hopefully we're helping you to learn to navigate the command line, the shell, a little bit better and learn a little bit more about how it's used.